for Hip Hop Robot, and for today's review I've got an item I picked up from Force Friday. If you got a chance to go out at midnight, it was an interesting experience. I personally went to a Target. I got there like maybe an hour and a half before midnight, and there were already 30 people there, which I expected, but I wasn't sure that many people would come. Between that time, maybe like 100 more people showed up, and it was interesting to say the least. A lot of the good stuff was gone by the time I was able to move through the line and get to look at stuff. But the strange thing is, I went right down the street to a Walmart while people were waiting for this raffle to happen, and there was a whole section full of merchandise that nobody had touched yet. So I lucked out there. So if you didn't get to go and you're trying to look for stuff right now, it's probably going to be difficult. But for instance, Toys R Us has a sale today, and from what I heard, there was supposedly some drop shipments they were supposed to get to help like actually boost and have product for the sale. So check out Toys R Us, check out Walmart. I think a lot of people aren't going to Walmarts for whatever reason. Check those out. Check out Target. Check out Walgreens. Walgreens has this stuff. They have the 3-inch figures at least. Kroger is supposed to have them, so they're supposedly everywhere. If you're an older collector like me and you grew up on this stuff, it seems like they're trying to make this big like it was back in the day. Like not the prequels, but like the original Star Wars stuff. Because in the late 70s, early 80s, you could find the figures almost everywhere. Anywhere there was a department store or sold any kind of retail items, people had displays of Star Wars stuff. So it looks like they're trying to recreate that sort of environment and hype. So if you can't find something right away, just keep looking. There's a good chance you'll eventually run into it. Which brings me to this. I did not get this at midnight, but the next day went to another Target, happened to find it. I wasn't sure if I wanted to get it or not, but I went ahead and particularly just for the review so people can see what this actually is. Looking at pictures of it and looking at other presentations they've had, I know I had a lot of questions. So that's why we're going to do this review. As you can see, the box is pretty substantial. It's kind of thin on the side, but the box is pretty big. So you get an idea that this isn't going to be like a teeny vehicle. It's not exactly huge or like in scale as you would imagine with the figure, but it is pretty big. The graphics are pretty good, and this is a lot like most of the Force Awakens graphics. They've got these really colorful painted images on the front of the box. On the back you get photography of what's included. This release comes with a special Poe. He's got like a removable helmet. He is mostly exactly like the regular release, and I'll pull him out a little bit later to show you. The only big difference is that he has a removable helmet and his visor is see-through. So if anything, that's probably a reason why you might want to get this. The size of it is kind of medium. It's not like the recent $25 rescaled ships that came out, like the Boba Fett ship. But it's not like the vintage collection X-Wing that came out from Toys R Us a few years ago. It's got a few cool features. The biggest thing is that it has BB-8 in the cockpit. He's not removable, but he's part of this mechanism where if you press it, the S-foils open. And then there's a little button that you pull back on, and that closes it. Now, this is directly inspired from the original X-Wing toy from back in the day. It had a little R2 at the top. You press the R2, the head would come open, you pull back on a little button, and then close. I almost thought these were going to be like the same size, but putting them next to each other, this one's a little bit bigger. So again, it's not a teeny vehicle, as you can imagine, it's not exactly in scale like with what you would think the movie would be. Matter of fact, just for a quick reference, here is a X-Wing from the Toys R Us 2-pack that came out a few years ago. Just kind of put it side by side. Leave the wings off to leave some space, but although this is a little bit bigger, it's not all that much bigger. Well, actually, when you put it like that, it is pretty bigger. So you can imagine that at some point they'll probably make this in a scale like this, but it's probably going to be a while because they know people will buy this and they hope that you buy 2 of them. Some other things that were notable: the way that these guns are packed in a box. These were completely warped and bent. It's kind of weird because you could tell that they put them in there in a way that they were hoping this is basically just some cardboard that holds them. The cardboard is supposed to keep them straight, but the cardboard collapsed, which made these get bent, and these were really, really ugly looking when I took them out. Basically, I went and got a hair dryer and heated them up, and then rebent them, tried to reshape them back into condition. So I imagine, depending on when you buy this, if it's a box that maybe has been sitting for a long time, then the bendiness of these guns are going to be more than, let's say, if you buy a box that's made its way through shipping and retail quicker, it's probably not going to be as bad. So that will depend on when you get it and which product you happen to get. Another thing is that it comes like this. There's a little piece, rubber piece that you put on the front to complete it. It's a little weird, but I imagine, again, this is supposed to be a toy for children, so they probably were thinking, we don't want a kid to hurt themselves, so they put these little rubber tips on them. It's not too bad, but it is kind of noticeable, and it's a little strange, but you get over it once you forget that you put it on there. Cockpit opens, you can stick Poe in there. It is very tight. He can fit in here, as you see, but you got to really maneuver him in there. But you do get him. He's got a removable helmet. He's got a little blaster and a working holster for it, so that's kind of cool. And even though these are, simple articulation, the sculpt is really nice on these. There's lots of detail, even with the straps and things being molded into the toy and not separate, they look like they're separate pieces. That's just how good the sculpting is. So if you're a big fan of the super articulated stuff, there will be a Black Series version of this later, but either way, I'm happy with it. It's a nice figure. It looks good. It's detailed. He'll fit in there, but you got to be really, you got to take your time, put him in there. The arms kind of need to be squeezed together, and you kind of got to have him kind of like in a reclined position. And when you put them in, you can kind of feel how far back the compartment goes, and you just got to keep working it till it stops, and then it'll fit in our way. So that's pretty much it. It's a fun toy. Only thing that I think they could have done, since they were trying to make this feel very vintage, is put some electronics in it. The thing is $49. I don't know if this is $49 worth of material. They could have put a little simple something in there, just have some sounds or whatnot, but I think that would have been a nice little added touch. One last thing is that there is also a missile. So there's a tiny button here, and it shoots out. It's not incredibly strong, but it's decent. And if it's supposed to be like the original X-Wing, it's supposed to shoot downward anyway into the exhaust port of whatever thing they're fighting. So there you have it. But I would recommend you get this. Although if you want to hold out for something more detailed and larger, I can't imagine they won't do it at some point. It's just, you know, is it going to be this year? Is it going to be next year? Is it going to be 3 years from now? Who knows? But if you like the design and you like what the movie's about and you're going to collect this stuff, I would highly recommend going ahead and buying this. So that's our review for this week. Thanks for tuning in, and check out some more reviews. We'll have a few more reviews of some Force Awakens stuff shortly.